Hey everyone, welcome to Vegas Showbiz. We are Jessica and Michael Pellegrini. We're excited to be with you today to talk about the infamous Neon Museum in Las Vegas. It's the sign graveyard that we've been meaning to go to for many years, since well before we even lived here. It's been on Jessica's to-do list. We finally made it happen. We got some pictures that we'll be sharing with you. I will say they don't allow anything related to professional photography when you're in there, so it's all just phones only. We got some pretty good shots, but anything resembling like a DSLR or a nicer camera is not going to be allowed in there. So just know that if you're going to be going ahead of time. With that said, it's been on Jessica's list forever. I feel like it's kind of her thing, so I'm going to let her start us off, and I'll certainly give some thoughts later as well. What'd you think?
Okay, so we went with extended family, from kids all the way up to grandparents.
Okay.
I don't think I would recommend it as a family affair. Our kids weren't really super interested in it. That being said, I enjoyed it. It's smaller than you might think. If you've seen it online, it's a little deceptive there. It's quite a bit smaller, but they walk you around in a nice loop. It's a guided tour, so your guide really does determine your tour. Our guide was like practicing to be a stand-up comic, so she really did try and stick it up a little bit.
There's a lot of routine.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily loved that, but it was entertaining enough. That being said, she did share a lot of history about specific signs we saw, signs from Moulin Rouge and signs from going back to the very beginning of the Vegas Strip. The Hard Rock one they left for last as their crowning joy. I wasn't super impressed by that, only because I've seen those things before. I like the older ones more.
Right, more historic.
It's about a 45-minite tour. It's completely outside, so be prepared. And I don't know if they require or if it's requested, but closed-toed shoes was something that they commented in person and on the website about. What would you like to add?
A couple impressions that I had. Let's see. First of all, I always thought it was farther out. It was surprisingly close to all the attractions on the Strip. It's just right there at the north end of the Strip. I agree with you. It was a little smaller than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting more real estate because they certainly had enough inventory to take up more real estate. But because the space is so relatively small, they're just signs stacked on signs on signs. You're really not seeing all of them or even close to it. I think that's one of the bigger points.
And I guess another thing too is a lot of them are not illuminated.
Yeah, they're just.
I didn't realize that. The ones that were illuminated were great, and they did, make sure to tell about the history of those signs. But there were so many, and she made a comment to say that most of them, came in not working, and the ones that are working, they had to restore.
Right.
So that was something that I wasn't prepared for either.
Yeah. I mean, easily, if they took over a larger space, they could really spread this stuff out a lot more and have a lot more to show. That said, they're curating what you're seeing for the most part. So you're kind of getting like the face value, and they're picking the stuff that has the most like historic relevance and that sort of thing. But again, if you're really interested in one particular thing that is there, chances are it's buried in the back, and you're not going to be able to see that. So.
Right, or they're not going to highlight it, and you're going to have to hope that your guide knows about it.
Yeah,
that was the one thing I would have liked to have wandered on my own a bit more. Because there was so many hidden gems if you were there, and you can't touch anything, so it's not like you can dig through anything. But if you had time to wander around a little bit more, we could have seen it. Now, I said I didn't recommend it for family only because our kids weren't super interested.
They liked the gift shop more.
They always love the gift shop. Yeah. That's always the case. I mean, there isn't a lot of lights, and it's more about the history and the signs themselves. And so, can you take your family there? Absolutely. Which I just wouldn't recommend it as a top Vegas attraction for kids.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to be like a terrible experience, but it's just, the adults are going to get a little bit more, and especially if you've been around Vegas or you're familiar with the history of it, you'll get more out of it that way.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally seen it. It was different than I was expecting. After all these years, it wasn't quite what I expected, but I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we went to it. You know, it was a good time and certainly worth checking out, especially if you're into the history of Las Vegas, which there's so much of. And I love those old signs. I learned a lot about like neon and like how they add color to neon and how, you know, all of those are hand, and even to this day, all the neon stuff that you see is all
It's
hand
hand
done.
done,
Yeah,
yeah.
really impressive. I thought that was cool stuff to learn. So. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoy. It's just a quick review here, but we've got some photos, so we'll share those with you as well. Hope you're enjoying our content. If you are, please help us out by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Love to have you along for the ride. That's it for this one, but we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.